Welcome into the Moi Ploy Boys Dynasty Podcast, the greatest podcast that you didn't want or ask for. And now introducing your hosts, Jake the Gluten-Free Harris and Peter Cheater Pigoo Hot Sizzle O'Donnell.
What's up, my homies, and welcome into the My Ply. It's your boy, Jake, the Gluten-Free Harris. We got some trades to talk about. A lot of action happened this last week. Sorry about the mess behind me. If that stresses you out, trust me, it stresses me out more. All right, let's get straight into it. All right, we're going to pull up the recent activity and the trades. Now, let's look right here. All right, let me show you what I'm looking at so you guys don't just have to listen, but you can also follow along, because when I start talking about just a bunch of names, makes it difficult to kind of picture all of it in your mind. All right, the first trade between J. Chon 1988, that'd be Jordo, and Bunch of Bums, Mad Tom, his name's not Tom, it's Rich. We have got Javonte Williams, a 24 first and a 23 third on the move. 4, DeAndre Hopkins, Nick Chubb, and Dalton Schultz. That's 3 win now assets and 3 not going to give you any points assets. These are the kinds of trades that I like to see. Love that DeAndre Hopkins is moving to a roster that is going to have a chance to compete. I think, do I think you could have gotten more for Hopkins? So first, let's break down the trade. All right, in value, Nick Chubb is worth more than just a first-round pick, generally. Dalton Schultz is probably worth like mid to early second. And DeAndre Hopkins is probably worth a late first, early second at this point in his career. So that's, you put them all together, and it's pretty close to 3 first-round picks worth of value. But not quite. And they're late first-round picks worth of value. Probably worth about 2 mid-firsts in value right there. Honestly, maybe not even that. Now, you've got on the flip side, Javonte Williams, a 24 first and a 23 third. I see this as a very even 50-50 trade. I don't think anyone really got bent over. What I don't like, and I think Jordan was smart to get out on Javonte Williams, is that because Javonte Williams injured his ACL the way that he did, or not the way that he did, but at the time that he did, it's likely that he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. This means that the Denver Broncos are going to be assessing whether or not they need to address the running back position in the offseason this year. And they're likely going to come to the conclusion that they do, because otherwise, what's their option? Latavius Murray? Like, he ain't the answer. So they're probably going to be looking to take some of the load off of Javonte Williams, and he will probably forever be a committee running back. Now, that means I think Jordan sold as high as he can on Javonte Williams. So I really like this move for Jordo. I think it does give Rich a young, usable asset, and I like that he was able to pick up a 24 first. I would have liked to have seen you get just a little bit more, as I believe Javonte Williams. Let me double check on my favorite website here for Keep Trade Cut. We're going to go to the Dynasty Tools Trade Calculator. I want to see what we're Superflex on. I want to see what Javonte Williams is worth. Anytime you want to use your website, you have to answer a Keep Trade Cut question. Sorry, let me just... All right. Javonte Williams. Yeah, okay. Javonte Williams is worth a late first at the moment. So you essentially got a 24 first, which is worth slightly less than a late 23 first. A late first round in Javonte Williams, and you gave up Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, and Dalton Schultz. I really think you should have gotten more, even if it was in the form of just many, many third and fourth round picks, because when your roster is kind of not in a good place, the way that Rich's roster may not be at the moment. Come on. Let me see your roster, whatever. The way your roster might not be at the moment, you want just to turn your singular asset into multiple assets. And here you've turned 3 assets into 3 assets. So I would have probably done Javonte Williams for Nick Chubb and a third. I would have done DeAndre Hopkins, Dalton Schultz for like a first and a second, and then maybe like throw a fourth in there or something. I think that would be a pretty fair. So I think you probably could have gotten a little bit more, Rich. But nice thing is Jordan is going to be coming back to you, looking for trades in the future because you gave him a very fair deal and did not try and bend him over, unlike what I like to do in my trades. Just kidding, guys. I love you. All right. The next big trade that we got to talk about. Our boy, Scott's Tots Razor. Is it 45? Razor 45.
Raise world, tragic raid starts to take.
All right, we have got a lot. This is probably the biggest trade here. A lot of very good young prospects and a couple of fourths. Dameon Pierce, Brian Robinson, Christian Watson, 23 fourth, 23 fourth. And in return, I got a 23 first, a 24 first, Pat Freiermuth, and a potentially mid to late 23 second. Now, this trade and how you feel about it really comes down to how you value Patrick Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is currently worth about an early second round pick. I like him a little bit more than that. Excuse me. And oh lordy. Man, it's not even that late tonight. Then I was able to get 2 firsts and a second. So the way I kind of saw the trade was 23 first for Christian Watson is, I think Christian Watson's probably shot up in value since I looked at this trade last. Yeah, he's worth about as much as Javonte Williams. So he's worth about a late first. So I got a late first for Christian Watson. Now, generally, if I'm a rebuilding team and I'm selling young assets, I don't just want to sell them one for one. I want to sell because it doesn't make any sense to take, all right, Christian Watson just hit. So I'm going to re-roll him into a 23 pick and basically roll the dice again. And like, hopefully I get someone like Christian Watson. Like, it doesn't make sense. The 2023 pick, it's like thinking like, oh, you know, a boat's nice and all, but a mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. So you generally want to get something else extra if you're trading away a young guy who is producing. Brian Robinson has been, the reason I was trading him is I didn't see him as part of my solution. I didn't see him as a starter for me next year, hopefully, and that he was going to be behind all of my young wide receivers, and that my other young running backs were going to be producing more than him. Dameon Pierce, I love Dameon Pierce, and I did not really want to let Dameon Pierce go. Now, Dameon Pierce currently has been losing a bit of value. I think the hype train is kind of wearing off. He's worth just a little bit less than Javonte Williams, and a little bit less than Christian Watson. So basically, you could look at Brian Robinson for Freiermuth, and then it's basically Dameon Pierce for a 24 first and Christian Watson for a 23 first, and I get the 23 second kind of thrown in as my win now tax for trading away these young productive players here. And then I threw in 2 fourths on his side. Baby's awake. I threw in 2 fourths on his side as kind of a deal sweetener to make sure that the deal got done. We were able to get it done. And I've got more picks than I know what to do with. I needed to unload some of my draft capital because otherwise I would likely be looking at a situation where I have so many picks that my roster is too full and I am unable to house all of the players I would be drafting. All right, our next trade, again, Ray's World. And, oh, my boy is sitting upright. That's not a good sign. He knows when I go live, I swear. All right. we're going to fly through this one because I may have to go take care of this kid. All right, Ray ends up with Kirk, Moore, Collins, a first, Hawkinson, and trades away, Hawkinson, Swift, Dillon, and 2/3. Now, if you want to kind of line this one up, I see A.J. Dillon and Christian Kirk being not quite similar in value. I prefer Kirk. I think you could have A.J. in a third be worth about Kirk. Then you got to line up DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift. I'm curious what DeAndre Swift's value currently is because he's been plummeting. Yeah, he is worth about as much as Dameon Pierce at the moment, which is honestly shocking to me. All right, he's just fussing. He's not shouting yet. He's worth about as much as Dameon Pierce, which is shocking to me, as just not all that long ago he was a multiple firsts type of asset. Now, so DJ Moore would be somebody who I think D.J. Yeah, DJ Moore is comparable to DeAndre Swift. And then you basically take Moore and Collins, and that equals DeAndre Swift. So it really comes down to a 24 first for Hawkinson and a third. And I will take the 24 first side of that. It is a pretty even trade with, I believe, Ray getting more of the win now assets in the deal, actually, as Nico Collins probably not going to have a great role in his offense the next year. Hopefully John Mechie gets healthy soon. They're going to be drafting a receiver. Brandon Cooks is still the number one. He's probably going to get supplanted by the rookie that they end up drafting this coming year, and that would bump Nico down to the third string wide receiver, potentially fourth if Mechie is not a total bust as well. So I actually prefer Ray's side of this, as he is getting the most valuable part in the trade, likely the 24 first, and he's getting more of the win now assets. I thought this was an interesting move for Juan's, a playoff team who's looking to push the chips in this year, acquiring A.J. Dillon, a running back who is not producing, DeAndre Swift, a running back who is not producing, and is unlikely to see his workload increase, as the Detroit Lions are definitely not going to be making the playoffs. And again, A.J. Dillon, same thing. Like, I don't think they have a huge reason to just give A.J. Dillon all the balls right now because, again, their team's not competing. Eventually, Jordan Love might get out there. I don't think that's going to be good for Dillon. I don't know if it'll be bad for Dillon. I don't know. I don't see value to a win now team in either of those assets at the moment. I like Hawk, though. I like Hawkinson. And our one of our other trades we have here, again, Ray's World and Brett Fish, don't call me Lamb Gerald. We have Juju Smith-Schuster and DPJ on the move for Gabe Davis and a 23 fourth. I wonder how the Dynasty community is feeling about Gabe Davis. Let me look that up, see what he's valued at. Gabe Davis is valued at, like, what is that, a late second? Gabe Davis is valued, oh, that's much more than I thought, is valued at as an early second round pick for 2023. That is shocking. I wonder what Juju's valued at. Juju is valued less than Gabe Davis. I find that very interesting, as I believe the Buffalo Bills are a contender to pick up a wide receiver this year, considering how rather bad Gabe Davis has proven himself to be as a true NFL caliber wide receiver. He's been a fine stand-in, but if anything happens to Stephon Diggs, that offense is going to be hurting for certain, and Gabe Davis owners would probably be squirting if anything happened to Mr. Diggs. So it's basically Schuster and Gabe Davis, which are pretty close. Gabe Davis is valued slightly higher for DPJ, which leaves DPJ for a fourth. Give me the Smith-Schuster and DPJ side. I love that Schuster is a win-now asset on a good offense. I mean, Gabe Davis, same thing. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, I love the fact that he was able to acquire him right before Deshaun Watson gets back. DPJ has been having an incredibly sneaky good season. I statted out Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I said if he can get 90 targets, he will be almost at 1,000 yards. I am curious to see how many targets Donovan Peoples-Jones is on pace for. he is currently on pace for, let's see, he's at 65 targets. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left. So basically 2/3 of the way through the season. He's pretty much on pace for about 100 targets and likely just shy of 1,000 yards. So a pretty good season. Now, if Deshaun Watson comes in and can cook, then we are looking at, and don't worry, everybody, my boy went back to sleep. We're doing sleep training, so it's been a journey. I am very happy with the progress they are making. Very proud of my 2 little babies. All right, so anyways, DPJ, Deshaun Watson, yeah. That's that. Now, back to them trades, though. League review activity trades. So I, again, like Ray's side of this trade. I like Ray's side in every trade. I prefer mine here, but again, it's pretty damn even, and Ray's getting a lot of young producing players here. So I think Ray's pushing the chips in an incredibly intelligent way, where he's not buying old assets. He's buying young assets that will retain their value if he loses. So even though he's selling some of his picks to do so, I think he wants to give himself a chance to compete. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Give yourself a chance to compete. And, I think he's doing it in a way that's not costing him a ton of capital. And kind of what set all this up and put Ray in a position to make this deal happen, make all these deals happen, was selling CD Lamb. One of the smartest decisions I think Ray is going to make in this Dynasty League was selling CD Lamb while he still holds good value. Now, if we look at the CD Lamb trade, we look at CD Lamb, and you're basically selling CD for about a first and an early second is about what he's worth, I would say. Let me double check that and make sure that's, let's see, late 23 first, and then early 23 second. Yeah, they're pretty darn close. So you're probably looking at like 2 late firsts for CD Lamb. Might be a more even valued trade there. But late first, early second is incredibly close. So actually, that's probably even closer than 2 firsts. But late first, early second is incredibly close. So you're basically selling CD for late first, early second, and then you're filling in the gap with Geno Smith and Mac Hollins. Now, Mac Hollins really doesn't have much value unless you have Devontae Adams, in my opinion, because Devontae Adams gets injured. Mac Hollins is kind of one of those handcuff wide receivers. He's already proven that he is this year. And then essentially you're getting Geno Smith for a third is probably pretty fair, even though Geno has been really good this year. And that basically means you're getting AJ Dillon for free, because I don't view Mac Hollins as being much of it, worth much of anything. And then with those first, you turn around, spent them, love what you did there. I think that's really the only. Okay, and by the way, guys, he offered me that trade. All right, this was Eddie's idea. I just put that Jamal Williams was out there, and he offered me that trade. I said I would take a second for him. So don't be mad at me. He offered it. I really think that's all massive overpay by Iceman here, but whatever. He's in love with Harrison Bryant. He's a fanboy. And I guess Jordan knew that and decided to take advantage. Yeah, I think there's really not many other trades. Start going back way far into the league there. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what sort of trades I think we could end up seeing in the future. I think that Eddie doesn't really have anything he can trade away. He doesn't really have any injured players that are worth anything. He doesn't have any win future assets that are worth much either. He could take someone like DK Metcalf, and he could turn him into maybe a Tyreek Hill or something like that if Jim gets eliminated. But that's the only type of move I think is really available to Eddie, is taking a very valuable young wide receiver and trading him for a also valuable but not young wide receiver. and making some moves after other players get eliminated. Otherwise, there's really not much firepower as far as trade bait on Eddie's team here. Could he package together some people and maybe swindle somebody? Yes, certainly. But who, I think you could trade away Trevor Lawrence as Kirk Cousins is producing, what is he, 13? And Trevor Lawrence is probably like 10 or 11, something like that. Yeah, he's 10 right now. And Trevor Lawrence is actually putting together a pretty decent season right now. So may have to take back a little bit of the Trevor Lawrence hate. But fuck that guy. No. So I think if you wanted to, you've got Trevor Lawrence that you could trade. He's not exactly helping you win any more so than Kirk Cousins. So you might take a T-Law, turn him into like someone who's holding Derek Carr, and then another asset that would help you win. I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of. The teams that are on the bubble, I think, are the really interesting ones. Currently, I don't have Brett projected to make the playoffs. Juan is right on the bubble, Jim is right on the bubble, and Ray is right on the bubble. All four of those teams have a very difficult road ahead of them to make the playoffs. I think Ray's made most of the moves he can make. He's stocked up a pair of 24 firsts that, I told him I'm interested. So he's definitely got a buyer out there if he wants to kind of make himself more of a contender. He does have the cash to do so with 2 firsts and a second and some other young players that aren't necessarily producing a ton. It just depends on how far Ray wants to push the chips into the center. As far as Brett goes, the moves available to him, if you can find someone who likes Mac Jones, I like Mac Jones, but I also don't know if I want to buy Mac Jones for any of my win now assets, being, maybe like a Pacheco or something like that for Mac Jones. I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I don't know what you could really do that would help you win, Brett. You need to sell J.K. Dobbins. You need to sell Elijah Mitchell. You need to sell Chase Edmonds. You actually, Brett, have a lot of injured guys that you could flip for more point-producing assets. Dobbins, Edmonds, Mitchell, Allaire, Gus Edwards, I think, has been injured a bunch. I think Gus Edwards maybe still injured. No, he's good. Yep, and then kind of down on the receiver end of things, you're pretty darn thin. Marquise Brown's coming back, which is good. DJ Chark's been in and out all year. Allen Robinson's been a massive bust. That's honestly very upsetting. You can also maybe find a buyer for Allen Robinson. I don't know what you'd get for him, but you've got plenty of injured players that you could flip for more point-producing assets. All right, then we have the next player on the bubble we're going to talk about being Jim. Jim, I know you're not listening to this podcast because you've got better things to do with your life. Your big weak spot, though, is quarterback. Aaron Rodgers not really producing. Do you really want to rely on Heineke? Goff being your QB2, it's okay, but it doesn't feel good having to rely on somebody who hasn't cracked 20 points in 2 months. Not something I'm trying to do. Your running back room is built to win. Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, like that combo a lot. You've lost pretty much all your depth, though. Melvin Gordon, he's nothing. Royce Freeman's nothing. Kyron Williams is your only other running back that is even close to startable. So you're just super fragile at running back. You're pretty fragile at quarterback. Your wide receivers are really the bread and butter. Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Olave's been good. Keenan Allen. Moore has been injured, but productive when playing. Brandon Cooks has been pretty bad, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's not been good. And Travis Kelce's really been the big thing that's keeping you afloat here in this league. Now, Jim has proven to be a very passive manager unless his brother offers him a huge overpay, basically giving him Rondale more for free. That's the only trade I can remember Jim making. So I don't expect Jim to do much, but if he wanted to, he can sell Olave for someone who's more productive. He could sell his picks. He hasn't sold a single pick yet. He might be able to sell. You don't sell Jalen Hurts in this situation. So yeah, the only thing you really have to sell is Olave and your picks, in my humble opinion. But that's that, boys. That's the moves available, and the trades have been done recently. There's still teams holding a lot of ammunition. Jim's got 2 firsts in the next 2 years. Juan is holding 2 firsts in the next 2 years. Ray is holding 2 firsts in the next 2 years. And so that's 3 teams with 6 first-round picks between them. And there are 1, 2, 3 teams that are absolutely selling or absolutely buying those picks. Rich, Hot Sizzle, myself. Boys, get out there. Good luck. Have fun, because I am. Thanks for listening if you listened. If you didn't, well, go fuck yourself. Later.